Real quick before we get into today's video, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon for all their support, because without their help, the upgraded content that you see on the channel, that you really see in the video essays and a few of the lore discussions, would not be possible without their help. Obviously, the YouTube membership filler arc is still ongoing, but I can say over on the Patreon that you get sneak peeks of videos months in advance. Patrons also get priority on the Q&As. Every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and I give away a lot of good goodies in that. And it's also just really cool to talk to you guys in the DMs, and if some of you guys have theories that you want me to talk about on the channel, obviously I will talk about your theories. Just send them to me over on the Patreon. But with that being said, let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys a review for Boruto chapter 63. And now that Boruto chapter 63 is done in the books, dog, do we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. Boruto has Karma version 2, and Boruto appears to have full control over his borushiki transformation. We will know for certain in the next chapter if Boruto's eye continues to look different. Then we can associate this with Boruto being in full control. If this is a artist's mistake, like how Naruto in the manga didn't have his whiskers after losing Kurama, but the tankobon when it was released, so the manga volume when it went to print actually fix this. I'm gonna be very curious to see if this ends up being another situation like this. Ikimoto's only human, so we just got to kind of give it to him how we give it to him. But I will say I didn't like the panel where you see Boruto, Kawaki, and Code, and they're all staring at each other. I thought that was a nice effective use of paneling. But getting into the other aspect of the chapter that really stood out to me is the fact that Ada ain't just down bad. My girl down bad. Like, she's sitting up there, her panties getting wet, her face is getting flushed, she's biting her lip, eyes getting all wide and everything, and she's like, oh my god, Kawaki wants to come to me. And in that moment when Ada basically made it clear that Kawaki could give her a season pass to Space Mountain, Jiraiya was ready to raise up from the dead, push Kawaki to the side, and say he found new inspiration for his novel. But with that being said, let's back up a little bit. So the chapter is basically divided into 3 separate sections. So the first section is a little bit of dialogue and setup, and then the second section is going to be more so battle heavy, and then the third section is going to be the big plot reveal with Boruto transforming into his borushiki transformation. So when the chapter opens up, we see that beautiful paneling that's done with Code, Kawaki, and Boruto, and you have Ada in the foreshadowing being set up that Ada and Code are going to have a split at some point, because Ada is telling Code, like, I tried warning you that Boruto and Kawaki were going to link up. I tried warning you that Boruto was coming, and you ignored me because you weren't listening and you were behaving recklessly. And Ada says, I don't know if it's because Boruto's part of Suzuki, I don't know if it's because of the Karma Seal, but I don't like the fact that they have this bond with one another, a bond that I can't share with Kawaki. And what I like right here is the fact that as Ada and Code are discussing the fact that they need to wrap this up quickly before Naruto gets there, Boruto's also just getting into Kawaki's grill. He's going off on him, and you really see just how far their relationships come, because he's saying, I can't believe you use yourself as bait. I thought that we are better than this. You know, my dad wouldn't want you to do something of this magnitude. Kawaki's saying, why did you come here? You're going to get yourself killed. And what I like about this is that you just see the magnitude in which both of them care for each other. Kawaki, for all intents and purposes, we might as well call him Kawaki Uzumaki, because even though he's not a blood relative of Boruto, that's Boruto's brother right there. And what I like right here is, as they're going back and forth, Code is just taking in everything, and Kawaki notices that Code isn't the one that's in control, because he's looking at him and he's saying, you got your hand pressed to the side of your ear, and you're this Otsutsuki worshiping a-hole. You're a fanatic. So go ahead and take me to whoever it is that's calling all the shots, because I know damn well you're not the one calling the shots. So go ahead and take me to them. And Code has a moment to where you can tell just from the artwork that some of Kawaki's words are kind of really stinging at this point. And as Boruto's listening to Kawaki say he wants to go to whoever is controlling Code, and when Boruto hears Kawaki say that the people who usually want him have no real good intentions for him, you can tell that hurts Boruto, because he and his family genuinely love Kawaki and want what's best for him, and Kawaki's just so dead set on this need to protect Naruto that he's blinding himself to everything that he's throwing away. At least that's how Boruto sees it. I personally think that Kawaki knows exactly what type of sacrifice he's making. However, that's what makes Boruto's response so heartwarming. Boruto's again trying to talk him out of it, and it's so heartbreaking for you as a reader, because you know everything that Kawaki has been through. He's gotten to a point to where people love and care for him, and you're watching as Boruto's pleas are falling onto deaf ears. This is such a nice payoff for all the buildup that we've had for the Boruto and Kawaki relationship. Meanwhile, as all this is going on, you got Ada, and she's observing everything. And that's gonna be very important for this reason right here. Ada knows that the window that they have to take Kawaki is closing. She can't see into the future, but she can see what's going on in the present. And she knows that that window is closing the longer that Code lets these things draw out. However, at the same time too, as Boruto begins to talk more and more, you see Ada getting all hot and bothered and flustered over Boruto, to the point where we gotta have a real conversation now. Does Boruto have a freaking harem at this point? And you can probably believe that if Code finds out that Ada's starting to catch feelings for Boruto, Code's going to be just as pissed off with Boruto as he is with Kawaki, because we all know that Code is a super simp for Ada. But getting back to Ada, she tells Code they got to hurry up, they got to get Kawaki out of there. And at that point, Code doesn't have to be told twice. Code begins to start the process of taking Kawaki with them, and Boruto basically reminds him, I'm still here, my damn self. He gets between the two and he immediately attacks Kawaki, and the reason why he's attacking him is to try and knock some sense into him. And after Boruto hits Kawaki hard enough that Kawaki starts bleeding, what I also like here is the fact that Boruto is again telling Kawaki that it's because I love you like a brother that I'm going to protect you in the only way that I know. And at this point, Boruto's gotten to the point where he's done with the talking. If Kawaki says anything else, he's going to hit him with that right hook. As this is going on, Ada is sitting there, she's holding on to Damon, and as she listens to Boruto's speech, the girl's covering her mouth with her hand. Her eyes are just getting super wide, and you can tell she's getting super turned on. And I'm be very curious to see how the Japanese translations do it, because if she's calling him Boruto-kun, you can go ahead and hang it up. I'm about to start trolling. But Boruto's potential harem aside, we have to look at this next part right here. So Code tells Boruto that you're Momoshiki's vessel. This is the first time we've met. I worship the Otsutsuki. I view them as being beings that are on the same level of being gods, and it pains me to have to feed you to the 10 tails, but I need to produce a chakra fruit. I've inherited the Otsutsuki will. And I like how Boruto just gets super smart mouth with him. He's like, I don't know who you are. I hate that you got to go through this. I thought that you were just a grunt. How about you let me go and we forget all this ever happened? And as Code begins to ramp up for battle and the ninja tech inside of his body is transformed into a claw, Boruto's activating his karma seal, and Kawaki's telling Boruto there's no way that you can win right now. You need to get away. And Boruto makes the right call. He says, look, he's not going to let me live, so I might as well fight him to begin with. So I thought that was interesting to see that. Now the scene then shifts over to what's probably going to be a controversial moment where Naruto's getting the update from Ino, and Ino's telling Naruto that like, hey, we've not only searched the village, but we've also extended our range outside of the village, and we can't track Kawaki. And I know some people are going to be saying, why is Naruto still in the village? I understand. Naruto is using a little bit of military tactic right here. So Konoha is gonna be the base, the starting point. Naruto's obviously been told Kawaki's left the village. He's checking everything in the safe zone right now, which is Konoha, just to make sure that Kawaki isn't hiding anywhere. And that's when he says, can you extend the range? And Ino's already done that. They've already checked outside the village, and that's when Naruto's like, okay, Boruto really was right. And he's been so focused on communicating with Ino, he doesn't realize that Boruto's left. And Boruto's whole plan was to use jutsu and draw Naruto and the rest of them out to him because they'll be able to track him. Well, I'm kind of wondering if that's even going to work, because I'm wondering if Boruto's going to extinguish his own chakra without even realizing that's what he's doing. Because Nishi, the sensory ninja who Naruto had assigned to him, tells Naruto that he doesn't seem like he's close by. But now that Boruto's gone into that borushiki transformation at the end of this, I'm kind of wondering if Boruto's chakra just doesn't get extinguished and they only have a general idea where the vicinity of it's going. And it looks like this fight has moved off base a little bit just based on everything's drawn. But what I like about this is that Naruto realizes I just screwed up. And what I also like is the usage of flashbacks, which again, that's another sign that Masashi Kishimoto is back writing this, because ever since he's taken over, we've seen more utilization of flashbacks, even if it's only for brief moments. But it does make me wonder if Kishimoto's writing this in a way to where he's going to delay Naruto showing up. The wild card in all this is obviously going to be Sasuke, but I can see this being a moment of contention for a lot of fans. A lot of fans are not going to be happy with the fact that Naruto is still inside of the village and that Naruto was using something as textbook as this. I'm really kind of curious to see what you guys' thoughts on that part's going to be. Now, this is where we get to the super interesting part of the chapter, which is the battle. And I have to say, I like seeing more strategy being involved in this. One of the things I've said quite a few times is that with some of the Boruto fights, I really felt like there could have been more than just taijutsu sequences. While this is very heavy on taijutsu, I do like some of the strategy elements. So Boruto clearly knows that I'm not strong enough to take out Code by myself, but Boruto does have the advantage of being a ninja. And that's one of the things that Code points out, is that this is going to be fun fighting a ninja. If you haven't caught on to the huge theme of the Boruto franchise, it's about, can science and ninjutsu coexist with one another? And this battle with Code and Boruto is going to be a perfect example of this, because Car is a example of what happens when you lean too heavily onto the technology side. Boruto is an example of what happens when you take that alien technology and you take those shinobi ways of doing things and you combine them together. And so Boruto, using the Karma Seal, has a pretty decent strategy where he's throwing the shuriken and Code ends up dodging the shuriken, and Boruto takes a page out of Naruto's book from the Land of Waves, where he's actually disguised himself as one of the shuriken, pops up out of the shuriken once it gets behind Code and tries to land the attack. I thought that that was very, very well done. And the way that he tries to attack Code is he doesn't do what Naruto did, where after Naruto popped up as a clone against Zabuza, it's more so what Naruto and Sasuke did against fused Momoshiki. So Boruto tries to use his most powerful lightning release jutsu in order to damage Code. He hurls the thunderclap at him, and Boruto actually ends up striking the ground at this point. So I do want to give Ikimoto credit for that. That's a very creative sequence, but there is one thing I thought was a missed opportunity here. So in that shot when Boruto's throwing that massive thunderclap arrow at him, that would have been a perfect opportunity for a single page spread. In this one right here, it looks like he went with a 3/4 spread. I really feel like if this would have been the whole page just devoted to Boruto hurling that attack, because of how well drawn the background is, and because when you look at that scene right there, Boruto, as he's throwing the thunderclap arrow, those speed lines are very well done. Like, that could have been a more dynamic shot right there. I think this panel's fine, or rather I think that this entire page, the paneling's fine on it, but I do firmly believe that this one shot right here, this more so benefits from an entire single page spread devoted to it. I'm not referring to double page. I know some of you guys are used to me saying double page spread. A double page spread layout for this particular scene wouldn't work. However, a single page for this would work. And I really believe that this would give you a more of a pop for Ikimoto's work, because this was a very, I cannot understate this. I know it's almost a meme at this point that Ikimoto overuses speed lines, but this one was very well done. And I feel like that one page spread for this and for Momoshiki's transformation, those could have taken those scenes from already being very well done to being excellent, in my opinion. And what I like about this is the fact that Boruto, as he's been fighting Code, you're seeing those Minato genes really kick into effect. Those same genes that a lot of people like to joke skip the generation. Code has been using his claw marks as he's fighting against Boruto, and Boruto's like, okay, so he can move from claw mark to claw mark. And Boruto's looking around trying to keep track of where those claw marks are. So that kind of goes back to something I said in the past. If you're going to fight Code, you got to fight him like you would fight a character like Minato. And Minato is just throwing all those kunai around the battlefield. You've got to keep a mental track of where those kunai are. And you got to hope to God that you guess right when it comes to which kunai he's going to teleport to. Well, it's the same thing with Code. He's got those claw marks all over the place, and he can go through those claw marks at any given point. And what I like about this is that after Code lands a few hits on Boruto, you just see Code getting more and more cocky, and he's like, you're no match for me. You're only a ninja. And Code begins to start smacking Boruto around, and we're really seeing the true gap in power between these two. Code is on a completely different level than somebody like Boro. He's on a completely different level than somebody like Delta. There is no catching anybody off guard. Code is willingly testing out Boruto, and when he activates his karma, we get a huge bombshell. So the way that he says is that when you use the karma seal, the karma, it has a soul to it. And so what the karma allows you to do is it doesn't just beef up your physical stats. That much is obvious, and that's the only thing Boruto is using it for. But when you use the karma seal, you're also going to inherit the combat ability of the Otsutsuki that you have. That combat ability, that combat skill. So that goes back to something I've said for a while. I really felt like Boruto was going to be able to use Momoshiki's Rinnegan abilities, which means he should be able to produce chakra weapons, and this chapter confirms that. So I do like seeing that, and what Code says is that you should be even more skilled than you are, and he's like, I'm gonna beat that skill out of you. And he begins just thrashing Boruto through their fight. But as this is going on, as he gets ready to stomp on Boruto in a very beautifully drawn panel, Boruto just vanishes, and that's when Code has tracked him. And when he sees him, Boruto squatted down. He's got this beautiful chakra aura flaring around him, and Boruto has a different karma mark that has been shown on his body. His appearance is a little bit different. It does mirror that of the Borushiki transformation, but he's a little bit different. But what I like here is that we have a cliffhanger in that, again, his eyes, they don't have the placeholder dots that we usually see for him. And I'm kind of wondering, again, is this an accident that's going to be corrected in the Japanese manga volume, or is this what's happening when the Byakugan pills are taking effect? And most importantly, also, Boruto, despite being in the Borushiki transformation, the horn hasn't reproduced, so that kind of makes me believe that that horn's gone for good. Now, I know we saw Boruto snap it, but Otsutsuki do have high durability. It's not crazy to have wondered, were we going to be in a position to where Boruto's horn ends up regrowing? But what I like right here is that at the end, Boruto's just drawn with this sinister expression. And so it looks like in the next chapter, we're going to be seeing more of this come to a head, and it's going to be very curious to see what happens if Sasuke shows up and he sees Borushiki versus Code, or if we see Naruto show up and it's Borushiki versus Code. That's going to be very curious to see what happens here, especially after Boruto episode 220. So one other thing of note is the fact that Amato did all that explanation on how the karma seal works and all the abilities. It's very curious that he left that tidbit out, that you maintain and you possess the combat experience of the Otsutsuki. If Code knows something like that, Amato should have known it. So once again, you have Amato as sus radar going off. However, my chapter question to you guys is, where do you think Borushiki is going to scale in regards to White Karma Seal Code? Do you think that Borushiki is going to dominate Code like he did Boro? And the second question I have for you guys is, where would you put Borushiki and Code right now in terms of power? As a reminder, this version of Code still has his limiters on, so he's not over Jigen right now. That only happens once his limiters are removed. But so always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.